Okay, in this lesson, the main difference is we're going to be simplifying at the end of the quadratic formula. So before we were just plugging it in, this time we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to have to simplify at the end. Okay, so here's our problem that we're trying to solve. First thing you should know, it's out of order, so this one has to move. This is going to end up being the b term. So I'm going to do minus 2n to both sides here. 10n squared minus 2n plus 6 equals 0. Now I have my a, b, c. So a is 10, b is negative 2, and c is positive 6. So first thing I'm going to do, make the right side 0, and then the rest is the same. So I'm going to fast forward towards the end. Okay, so I did all the work, and we get down to n equals 2 plus or minus negative 236 over 20. So again, this negative, that means you're going to have no real solution. This turns into an imaginary, we call this an imaginary root. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to move up here. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to make it 2 plus or minus I 236 over 20. So whenever you see a negative inside, that's going to become imaginary. You're going to put that in front. Okay, so that's the first thing. So negative becomes imaginary. We put imaginary in front. And then we got to break this down. So like we did last semester, we got 236. We're going to use our factor tree. This is 2 and 118, 2 and 59. And this is a prime number. Okay, so we have one group of 2's here. 2 plus or minus, this goes outside, goes in front of the I, 59 over all over 20. Okay, and there's actually one more step. So we make the I if it's negative. We break down this one if we can. I have a pair of 2's, and now we're going to simplify. So you notice the top and the bottom, I can divide both sides by 2. All right, so since I can divide those both by 2, I'm going to do that. I got 1 plus or minus, that becomes 1i, radical 59, and 20 divided by 2 gives me 10. And here's your final answer. So again, to review it, negative becomes an I. The square root, we're going to see if we can break it down and simplify it. I have a pair of 2's here, so I can take out the 2's. And now I see we're looking at these three numbers, 2, 2, and 20. We're looking for I can factor out any number out of 2, 2, and 20. I know those are all divisible by 2, so I'm going to divide all three of these by 2. So we get 1i, radical 59, and this becomes 10. So there's your final answer. Okay, here's a second type of problem we're going to do. So I have x squared and an x. So that means I need to move everything to one side. I like to move it towards the x squared. So I'm going to subtract 12x to both sides and 55 to both sides. So we get 4x squared minus 12x minus 55 equals 0. Okay, and then I'm going to fast forward here because the only part different is the end. So I'm going to plug this into the quadratic formula and fast forward a little bit. Okay, so fast forward, you get 1024 inside the radical. This ends up being a perfect square. So that becomes 32. So now, if you have your answer like this, you have to separate them into two answers. So we got 12 plus 32 over 8 as one of your answers. And we got 12 minus 32 over 8. So this becomes 12 plus 32 is 44 over 8. That becomes, we can divide that by 4, 11 over 2. And this one becomes negative 20 over 8. We can simplify that. That becomes by 4 also, negative 5 over 2. So these are your two answers. Okay. So if it's a whole number, you got to split it up. Oops, that should have been plus. Split it up, do one with the plus, do one with the minus, and simplify your fractions.